And it's based on what we know. A lot of this is what our grandma told us when we were growing up. She was right. At some point, we got to get beyond all the science and the research and just know that some things are true. I mean, why else would we have a great group of faculty and adults around the community who are trying to teach young people and older people to be successful in life and make a difference in the world if their knowledge isn't worth something? So yeah, research is in a vacuum, and research is important if we can look at it and we can assess some stuff, but we have to be careful, I think, with valuing it too much. So that's the, so here's Zen. If I was president, I would help people get their lunch boxes. Empathy. And somebody talked about how they help others. We shouldn't have done that. My concern is, because this is, Zen is like 6 years old. This was last year. I don't know if he's supposed to. My concern is he gets to the 5th or 6th grade and that's no longer acceptable. And some adults are going to come along and suck the whole out. And the research is showing us that's what happened. 5th, 6th grade, that's what starts happening. Because we're so focused on this cognitive side, reality is both. It's going to be the whole child. Yes?
What is your definition of success? Your personal definition of success?
Oh, well, mine is just to believe in the Kids of Hope framework and guide kids to all 4 of those destination points. I want to guide kids to all 4 of those and have them be successful in all those, in that whole area, creating a little child.
I was very fortunate that when I was raised up, I was taught not only to learn academics, which I had learning disabilities as a child, I was also taught to discover that I had an inner soul. And that person, if that wasn't developed to love and have compassion, I mean, it took a long time to get me there, but that was my success, and that's, and I think that's a lot of things kids have been missing, is that learning how to develop themselves as a person versus just education.
Some of that scares me a little, but I think part of the electronic age is kids aren't able to just sit and contemplate and have self-awareness. Those are all important things. And you're talking about, community service is a big destination points, whether it's in the church or helping others or whatever you're taking. Those things, the people we had in those scenarios help us be successful. And then here's Laquan. Laquan was 7 last year. This is so cool. One of my future destinations is art, so I will need to design a golf course. And we're cranking out kids that are graduating and they don't have these critical thinking skills. But if we set this up right and we believe in kids, they're not afraid to say these kinds of things. And it's not just lining up and memorizing something so you can pass the test and then go on to the next one. And really not able to think the way you think. Second grader. That's her definition of hope right there. Future thought. She wants it to happen. She's excited about it. So it's important that kids can think about that stuff. So here's what Hope Square is about. Partnerships and collaborations. The understanding that children are the product of their total family and community experiences, not just one program or organization. Connecting services to support the child's development instead of shared evidence-based principles and practices. It increases the expectation and results that all children will succeed without exception. So we're doing this Hope Square thing. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. It just kind of summarizes kind of what we're trying to do in moving from me to we and engaging as many people as possible that might want to take part. One of the things I can tell you that I've talked to Dr. Young about is, and I've talked to Dr. Klein at PLU, and I'm having some conversations with the University of Washington, Tacoma, is to do some research projects based around this, because we're now at the beginning and we can follow this for a few years and work with some of the school data and maybe some of the other data and seeing what changes. So one of the things we know, that was pretty powerful. Oakwood, when I put that up, every kid had to carry an ultrasound. We do these other surveys. We also know, and we've seen, but we haven't really been able to capture it the right way, but with some help, it's people who want to do this research, disciplinary referrals go down. Attendance goes up. Grades go up at a certain point in this further. We have one doctoral research study that was done on that, collective efficacy. Dr. Dennis, I will be trying to tell you about that. But so we're looking at a way to document this and do some research behind it because we know what's going to happen. We've seen it enough. I absolutely know what's going to happen because now what we're doing is assessing. So you just don't go out and create a hope square and say we're going to go to the hilltop and do it. The first step, which we've been through, is identify leaders on the hilltop who believe this, who will help, who will have courage, and will move it forward. And then there's a scenario that we can lay out of what you have to do to move it. And we have this commitment. And as we move forward, we're finding those people. And I think we'll find, we're going to create 8 of them. We've got about 4 right now that we know we have people in place. I believe a lot of people are looking for this. They're tired of what we're doing. Everybody knows we need to do something. They just don't know what at this point. So we need to get help. So here's a brief thing. I don't know what happened here. All these pictures over here. We're going to do an intervention. We want to create a cognitive platform to welcome kids and adults to move forward in an at-home manner. You can't, but because there are 50% of the kids telling us they're hopeless, we need to intervene. We need to fill in the hope. So it's all about mental time travel. So right now, this is a community. We've got a place for media, for the teens, for music, for dance, for arts and crafts. We've got community partners. But if it's a hope square, I didn't know all that background was showing up on this. I don't know if you can see this earlier, and there's colleges. I know one of the things that happens here is you really connect with all of the destination points. It's not just education. You're connecting with home and family because you have families. You have family members inspiring and empowering each other. And so now they're coming and getting an education. I know that you do a lot of giving back to the community. So what we're talking about here, you've got Parks and Rec, Squad, State Boys, Girl Scout, PTA, faith-based organizations, government, all these around here are folks that are already involved somehow. And now we can create this Hope Square neighborhood, and we want everybody. So that's why the mission statement is yours, but the belief system is shared. And if we get all these organizations to believe that every kid's capable of success, to have meaningful, sustainable relationships, and help kids mentally time travel to the future, prepare for it. We're going to create a neighborhood where every child succeeds.
Without exception.
Thank you very much. Without exception. No exceptions to that rule. So we want to ensure that children receive elements of success, scientifically proven. It improves the child's sense of self-resiliency and personal empowerment. Once we can do that, they can be successful wherever they choose. So the greatest at-risk factors lie not just in family dynamics, social conditions, or community poverty services, but in our personal beliefs about children, our relationships with them, and the ability to help children sense and prepare for their future in which they can succeed. So we need to change that belief system. So one of the things I'm going to meet Thursday with Carlos Santorno, the new superintendent of Tacoma. And I noticed one of the things that they've just did is that if you think back to that, the eyes have changed. the institution has already said we're going to implement this program. And I don't know what they call it, but it has to do with black holes. So I don't know enough about it yet. I want to learn, because my concern again is good intentions going wrong, because now we label black boys as needing whatever special services. And if they don't do this in the right way, and all of a sudden the adults and the other kids, oh, this guy's going to go off because they need special help, or whatever it is. You know, every kid's got to be capable of success. And we got to, before we can do anything about this achievement gap, we must do something about this cultural gap. From the bureaucratic standpoint, when I talk about culture. Any comments or questions here? Yes.
Yes. So when we talk about culture, being in like say Tacoma School District, when we look into the district, the representation is not there. You can't feed what I can feed because you don't eat from my table. So I think that the main thing is to give that diversity in our schools for our children.
Well, I think it's a big part of that, but from my standpoint, I'm going to deal with who's ever there, needs to believe in kids, needs to connect with kids, needs to give a future thought. Everybody that works, all adults need to be treasure hunters, and all kids need to be time travelers. And as far as the diversity issue for Tacoma schools, I mean, that, we won't get into it, but I know the Human Resource Department has failed in a lot of ways. And that's their job. I believe if you bring this culture into the highest level in that district, that would be one of the automatic things that will happen. So from the viewpoint of yours regarding that other definition of culture. Yes?
In your research, you mentioned you had 50% of students didn't have anybody speaking any words of encouragement in there. So my other question is, are there any plans for Hope to address at-risk parents? I mean, to do some outreach to the parents, because you can have a kid in school for 6 hours, but they still have to go back to that environment, and the parents just don't get it, or are not maybe exposed to that. Because myself as a parent, my child is constantly teaching me new ways of looking at things. So, are there any plans for Hope to do some training with the parents?
What's your name?
Alexander.
Alexander? Thank you for that question. Did everybody hear it okay? Talking, parents involved. Yeah, so one of the things I didn't mention is as part of this Hope Square grant from Middle Guard, it will include a series of parent trainings. So we have a parent component. It covers these 3 universal truths. It's about how do you celebrate your child's success. It's about reframing with the language that you use. Because at home is one of those areas where it seems, in part of it, you just approximate. You get your kids with you all the time. So we do these parent seminars as well. What we have found at this point is usually when a school has been around for a year, a little over a year as a Kids of Hope school, then they'll want to do parent trainings, similar to ACE's tracking. So it's one of the things that we do to keep this moving forward. So, you know, again, it's not pointing fingers at parents. It's, oh, we know they want what's best for their children. How do we involve them in their children's lives in the school setting? So what happens is that Kids of Hope schools, parent involvement increases. However that looks, it doesn't have to be just showing up, although showing up at the events increases considerably. Let me give you one example. Dollar Elementary School, Former Park School District, Kevin Brooks was the principal. So once they adopted Kids of Hope, one of the first things she did was send a letter home to the parents announcing that in October or November or whenever was going to be the first parent conferencing night. And she talked just briefly what Kids of Hope did, as far as the interest of the staff, that kids were at home. And then she said, when you come to that conference, please bring be prepared to share 3 positive attributes about your child with the teacher when you show them. Well, there are a number of things that change immediately. One is some parents aren't comfortable on a school campus. Maybe it's because of their experience as a kid. Maybe it's their experience as a parent and not feeling comfortable, not feeling well. Now they get this letter that says, oh, I'm going to be free. And what's common feeling or expectation when it comes to a student conference is, oh, what did mommy do wrong? We're going to go find out what my kid did wrong. I have had friends tell me, I just got a call from the school telling me, oh, you don't have to come to parent conferencing tonight, or tomorrow night, or whatever it is, because your kid's doing just fine. Weird state. Our conference is only about beating up on the kids. Is everything wrong? So now when they come in, it changed the dynamics. We're going to start sharing from parent to staff, and the staff's got to know 3 positive things as well. Even though it's early in the year, maybe it's a new kid, you're going to share back and forth, and you're both be going, really? Parents going to buy into that? And you can be talking to the parent, and pretty soon you're building up that database, and everything is just a much better connection with the parent and the school. The parents start feeling more and more comfortable about coming to that school because they know that all the adults in this building are focusing on the assets. You've got some pretty powerful testimonies to that from parents as well as other adults. Anything else at this point? I think we're getting down here. We're going to have a little conversation. All adults, treasure hunters, all kid time travel. So we have some characters we've developed. We have some books. This is just kind of on the surface what we've learned today. We have some early learning characters in a couple of books. We have Hillary Hope, Sandy Success, Oscar Optimism. We have the dream-stealing Dylan. He doesn't have dreams of his own, so he's trying to steal them from kids. We have Sheriff Hopeologist. Sheriff Hopeologist, in case you hope that. And this is a new character we've developed recently as the time traveler. What's the gas tank? Yeah, it's a brain. That can take us to the future. That's where the headlights are pointing. And on the back there are the 4 destination points. So as a time traveler, we want kids to move forward, see their future. What does it take to be successful in home and family knowledge, recreation, community service, and career education? Then come back and prepare for that future so that you know what it's going to take. And so we're defining success in this holistic future. Well, what's it going to be like? What are you going to do? Here's another example. In Kids at Hope Schools, we have a number of young boys where you can walk up to and talk to them about have they thought about what it's going to be like to be a parent. We have a lot of single families in this country, or all across the world, I'm sure. A lot of single families, and the majority of them are the father is missing. And so part of that, I think, is let's start asking those questions to teach them boys. They need to think about their future. For whatever reason they're not getting that, they need to. Okay, I think I'm finished with the presentation. Yes?
What is you said all adults are black and all children are time travelers?
Treasure hunters. So in our vernacular, we created a common language. Yeah, adults become treasure hunters, so our job is to search out for the skills and talents in every single child. So some of this can seem a little dorky or whatever you want to say about some of the language we have. But what we know is, if we have a common language and we focus on these assets, and kids know that we're treasure hunters, kids will tell you that treasure hunters. Then it helps and can unite us all. Any other questions at this point?
Over here. Yes, I'd like to know if your program includes anything, any provision for parents of different cultures and non-English speaking parents?
You ever hear that?
Yeah.
Well, non-English speaking parents, we do trainings, we have little, it's like, we call it a fun book instead of a workbook. So when you do the trainings, and many of you come and do these in car seminars, you'll get these. We have one for the parents and for work. Both of those we have in Spanish. It's the only other language we have at this point. We can deliver that. As far as different cultures, we believe that these are universal truths, and that no matter what your ethnic background, if that's what you're talking about, is, that you can relate to this. That if you believe in your child, and you connect with them in meaningful, sustainable, and part of the parent training, by the way, is how do you get your children surrounded by other caring adults, so that they get all these aces. And the parent, you can get, it's only the parent that can give the ace of hearts to your child, so nobody else can. But those others you can. But how powerful is it to be intentional about making sure your child's surrounded by other caring adults who can give them these aces? So as far as that's concerned, I think this is just universal.
I agree with you. I agree that it's universal, but my point is that if you have parents that, number one, don't speak the language, there needs to be some kind of outreach to those parents, whether it be a school liaison of some sort or some mechanism in place that will not exclude them. As well, I think that there is a need for cultural awareness. And I don't see that here, but I'm sure that it's somewhere in your parenting, perhaps it's covered.
I think it's covered in that we have meaningful, sustainable conversations. And so we do a lot of breakouts and people reflect back, and they're talking specifically about their children, their history. So we get into that a lot. Secondly, I agree that we need this in other languages. So if you can help, I'm looking for people who, at one point I thought I had somebody from one of the Cambodian churches that was going to help, but it didn't happen. So that's the way we operate. We have our infrastructure is very limited. We have about 600 to 800 projects going around the country. We have these 500,000 treasure hunters, kids. We do all this on about 3.5 people and a budget of about 400,000 to 500,000. We just use other people's infrastructure. So that's a great idea. How do we get somebody in the community as one of these schools that will help translate, right? How do we get somebody from the Cambodian community, the Laotian, all these different communities? I'm open to that. We don't have the resources to do that ourselves. And because we lie in the cultural domain, not the bureaucratic, we need to find somebody that goes, wow, I want to help. What can I do? How can we infuse this into my ethnic culture? And I'm all for that. Yes?
At what age do you start with the children?
About 3.
So you do some preschool. So that's the point of maybe, I'm really glad that you're doing this. It's a great start. And I understand your difficulty with getting enough people involved to help. We've been doing a lot of reading about, and from this book, which covers a lot of those needs and the bases there.
Right.
So I think I, like most people in this group here, think about all the other components we would love to see as part of this.
Without a doubt. It's in a lot of places.
Yeah, and I really wish you success. It seems like being able to get the parents on board early on as part of the team, and in some ways that team outreach has not really happened very much in the city of Tacoma. Parents have felt marginalized a lot because their input for what to make the school system better, as far as the school boards go, has not really been considered very much. And so kudos to you for doing what you're doing, and there's a lot of work to be done.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you. And last month we did a training so Kids at Hope is in the Head Start program in Franklin Pierce. And so we And it's been there a while, so now this year they decided let's do parent trainings. So we did 2 of them. In English and Spanish. So we had one of the Spanish-speaking staff there who was with me, and we used to learn together. Yes?
I noticed you said that you have Hope Square here on the hilltop, but does that include, is there certain schools that are part of that program? Elementary, the middle school, organizations, not just one which ones are?
Thank you. About the hilltop, specifically the schools, and we're just starting this. So we've identified this group, and we're in the next week or so, we're going to do the first training to this month. John Kellett, who's the principal at Jason Lee, has given me his support. And we're really close with Scott Rich at Carver. But the way we're looking at this is we're setting, so we're going forward, we're doing it with or without you. And we want you to join. So that normal model in the schools is that bureaucratic piece. So I'm not worried about getting the whole district or even the principal to say, we're going to become a kids at home school. I've met with them, they understand this. I really don't want them to say, oh, we're going to do this, and then we get all the staff together, and we do the training in here as part of your professional development. We can do the professional development credits and all that. I have no problem with it. I really don't. I want them to join because they want to. So we're going to set up, this is when we're having the trainings. They're going to be like on an evening, either Tuesday or Thursday, and then we're going to do them on Saturdays as well, and then just say, come and join. This is when we're doing it. John, Scott, have some of your people come. So that's a different model for most schools. But what will happen is we'll get I know what will happen. There'll be some people that this really resonates with them. They'll show up. They'll get back in that school building, right? And they'll start talking to others. And as we continue to have these trainings, more and more will start showing up. Then at some point, if there's enough support with a team, then we could go in and do full trainings just in the school building. There's enough staff in. But it's just unfolding right now. I just sent out the stuff last night. The first response is we're going to have probably 7 to 9 people from the NAACP Tacoma branch. I've already committed some staff, other staff around education folks have committed, so I'm excited about it. The first training is going to be at the Oasis of Hope Center on 19th Street Church. Yes, sir.
I'm Mike with. How does your involvement, I know that you mentioned Jason Lee and Carver, how does zero tolerance play into this process?
How does zero tolerance play in? I don't have anything to do with that. I want to bring a culture in which every single adult believes in every kid, that they connect with kids, they give them future thought. What we see is disciplinary referrals go down. We've had some schools that have eliminated disciplinary referrals. They no longer do them. They'll call it something, but it's a positive referral. So when kids get doing something that that's really cool. Could be a kids at Hope, it could be academic, could be whatever. Their behavior's right. They get recognized for that. We got a school that's got a Hope TV. They have their own television. They'll have kids will do the pleasure. They'll recognize kids that way. But I think zero tolerance is something that is up to the district and the principal. That's a bureaucratic piece, and I don't pay any attention.
It'll ruin your program.
Yeah. Oh no, it'll be the opposite. Michael, it'll be the opposite. Because this isn't a program, this is a culture. And when you bring this kind of a culture, kids start having expectations for each other. And I've seen it over and over again. And so discipline goes down, and that stuff it's not totally limited. But instead of mandating it from the bureaucratic side, because you can't, you can only create a culture in which kids are expected to behave the right way. And it's not just a step on the So that's my opinion. Yes.
You mentioned earlier about community assessment. So it's on the done a community assessment for the program?
Yeah, the assessment that I did was to identify leaders, meet with them, tell them about this grant, and then we're going to move this forward, and would you help join it? So for this project, we have Evergreen as a partner, we have PW, we have Tacoma Urban League as a partner, of course, Milgard, and we have a kind of a team together that's moving forward. And you know Dolores Brown? Dolores is a big part of this now, so she's kind of taking the lead with it. We'll talk about it. So for each neighborhood, we'll identify some people who will just help oversee this. And so we identify those people. We've identified some other. We want to make sure that they'll be courageous with this. They'll want to move it forward and understand it. That they'll make a 3 to 5 year commitment. Because this doesn't happen. And you can't just say, oh, we took the Hope training. We took that training. That's why I don't like even calling it a training. Yes, it is an empowerment seminar. So it's important that language is so important. So, you know, and then we tell them, you've got to meet as a team. After these trainings are done, you and your organization, you have to meet regularly and share this and lead it rather than just take it and walk away. You have to practice it. So we need that commitment from.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to mention that Sherry Walton, who is the executive director of the Masters in Teaching program, is also a partner in this and has conducted one of the trainings I know with kids at home. So I think I would have to say that it's not just Tacoma campus, but it's also the Master in Teaching program is connected with kids at home as well. I just wanted to give her that.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, because I don't know if you know this, but I met with Dr. Walton with one of the principals in Olympic School District a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's where we talk about community and service. Dr. Walton volunteers at one of the schools in Olympia, and after the exposure to some of the stuff she was doing, she says, okay, this school needs this. So I said, sure, set up an appointment. We're going to meet with her. And so we did. She showed up, and it was a great meeting, and we moved that forward. See what happens. Yes, sir.
I didn't hear you talk about funding, and so what I'm wondering is how does funding, or where do you get your funding from? And how does funding impact cultural implementation in a vulnerable school district?
Thank you very much. Well, right now, the funding for these Hope Squares is coming from Milgard. So Milgard has been watching Kids at Hope for the last 4 years since we started. Gave us some money at the beginning. They wanted to make sure that we were going to survive. And we're here 4 years later, we made great inroads. And well, you know, when I said culture is about you do it because you want to, not because you have to, and you do it because you got paid or not. I was in that position myself for over a year. I just kept going. But we get our funding from, we do charge for trainings, but it's very little. We get them through grants and donations. Again, it doesn't cost us much. This grant, there's going to be nobody's got to pay anything to do any of these trainings. We set it up that way. When we do the first one, the Hope Church and Hope Center, we'll probably take some donations and also to get to them. We'll use that. So, but overall, if you look at the cost of programs versus changing the culture, it's very low. So it doesn't cost very much at all.
And one final question was, when you go into a school district, because teachers have been marginalized to such a degree these days, how is it that you can actually make get them to participate in an objective assessment when you might say to that teacher, and they know that you're not the kind of person who fits the bill?
Thank you. Very good question. Did everybody hear that? No. How do you get teachers to come around when we might be being a little bit in their face, kind of, because if they're not practicing this, and we know it's important, and maybe they're not. So our job really is not to judge them, but it's to move them to that level. So there's a system in place where we train everybody in the building. We have another group of leaders who take a 2-day training with Rick Geller, who's our founder. So when you get back in the building, it's it's not going to do any good to take this training and be inspired if you don't start practicing. So we know what's going to happen next, and it's important that that team leads this. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and schools are used to sprints. They're used to, oh, we're going to take this new program and it's going to fix everything. And the next year another one comes along, and the next year another one comes along. And there are great programs out there. But if you bring the right culture, then they're looking for the asset-based programs that fit in. And they'll only adopt stuff because they want it. And so I hope that helped with that. But we just set that up, and we're very careful of not offending anybody, but just saying join us. And those who aren't, what we find is the culture moves forward, you join it. Or if you don't fit in, you leave because you're no longer comfortable. Okay, we got a question back here?
Yes, it is a question slash comment, actually. My name is Debbie Davis, and I'm really excited and glad that you're here. And I commend you on your work. I think it's an extraordinary program, and I'm hoping to see it really grow and prosper, because I believe in it. I'm back here taking notes, and I really believe in its work. What I'm asking of you personally, as a parent, as a community member, and as a woman, is that you intentionally include different languages in this training process. Because what I heard you say in response to the lady's questions from there is that, well, you have it in English, you have it in Spanish, and while that is super great, I would like to see some intentionality put behind the effort, because otherwise your vision will then change from all children who can succeed, no exception, to all children who speak English or Spanish can succeed, no exception. And that is not okay.
Thank you. I agree 100%. So would you like to help? I need to know who the people are in these different communities so that we can create that. I mean, you have to understand something from me. I'm a one-man show. I do have Bree that works 10 hours a week. That's something new. So I do this by running, 15 hours a day. I'm ready to do it. I just need to find those people in the community who will step up and say, okay, I can do this language, or I can do this language. I can then give them the materials, and then they can do that part of it. But then beyond that, we need people, with those language skills to take the kids at home training so they understand what it is, so I can help them also in the training. You can't just step in and do it. Okay?
So in response to your question, I do not have any other English skills that are available to me other than, language skills that are available to me other than language. English, geez, I speak today. However, I'm sure that there are folks, if you put it out there, that do have those skills that can volunteer to do those things. And or grants that you were talking about writing and collecting, that can be included in there, that there's a language component that we need to pay for, to have people either translate or transcribe these materials into.
Excellent. I put it out there right now. And this campus is very diverse. And I would get people go to some people to join and have it do that. I would love to. I absolutely agree that it's not really all children until we can get all those other people to come about it. And then it means we have to go out there and recruit them. So I still think it's going to be leaders within those individual communities that speak those different languages to get together, understand this, get inspired, go back to their communities and say, hey, we need to do this kids at home. This is some cool stuff.
One more, and then we'll close.
Yes, I agree with the concept that all kids can succeed with no exceptions. And being a parent of a child that suffers from ADHD and that is on a 504 plan, and the school is not going with the 504 plan to better my daughter's education, how does Hope deal with 504 plans and with the school district or with the school that they enter?
Well, the way we would deal with a 504 plan is just filling a school that has to write 504s and abide by 504s to make sure if they're looking at that child in a physical manner, first and foremost, they're going to believe in that child rather than writing them off. Secondly, they're going to have meaningful connections with them. Thirdly, based on where that child is, they're going to help them with their future class so they can become successful when they become adults. So again, you're talking about something that's a bureaucratic piece, the 504 plan, versus a culture that would make sure that if a 504 plan is written for a child, I think first and foremost, it's done for the right reasons. Because I've seen some of these 504s that, to me, should never been done. And that's just from my perspective, because we have to be very careful when it comes to labeling. Right? So a lot of those need to identify what are the skills and talents that child has. So that we be very intentional about setting them up for success rather than defining what's wrong with it. But then beyond that, once you have a culture within a building that's focusing on this, I believe that they would get it done, and they would get it done in the right way. So I hope that's helpful.
Okay, Wally, I don't know if you did that. No, you don't need that at all. Okay. I just want to reiterate that if you're interested, there will be a training. Session 1 will be on Tuesday, March 6th at 5. It will go from 5:30 to 8:30. And most of you know where Oasis of Hope is, but for those of you who don't, it's at 1937 South G. So you go down the hill, make a right, and it's a big building, beautiful building on the left. The second session is on March 24th, which is a Saturday. It opens at 8:30, the training begins at 9, and it goes until noon. And it's at Al Davies Boys and Girls Club, and that's at 1620 South 17th. Most of you know where that is too. But if you need information, I think this was sent out on the email to all of you. But if you don't have it, I'll just post one at the desk. But now we're opening the floor to give back. And so you know the drill. And all of you wish you are invited to give back what you have received from Wally this morning. Your hand is up.
Just a real quick question, what is the charge for those?
No charge.
Free,
Okay.
Just want to add something about that. We need you to respond instead of just show up.
Okay.
It's on there. We
It's
just need to
Wally,
know.
it's Wally, W-A-L-L-Y, at kidsathope.com. So respond. Huh? .org, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. .org. And so you can respond, it's free of charge, but you need to let them know you're coming, so they'll know how many people will be there. And so now, Mara.
Wally, I want to thank you and recognize the tremendous amount of effort and energy that you put into this. I was part of this group listening to you, watching reactions, knowing that you've had to go through this over and over and over again, and you getting up in the morning, putting your clothes on and going out there and doing it again. And my hat's off to you, because that is not an easy job. Thank you for your energy and commitment.
I wanted to thank you for your passion, and I want to empower people, especially in the field of corrections, prisoners in jail, people coming from jail. And I think I want to use your services kind of as a role model to do something in that way. Thank you.
Say that I appreciate that your program includes early childhood, because early childhood is my passion. And I find that early childhood ECE gets left out, and they always think of kindergarten, but they don't think about daycare, where children start out before they get to kindergarten. So that fact that you said that you start at 3 and Head Start, I really appreciate that.
and would hope that you would offer that to daycare centers around the state.
I think it's really refreshing that finally, instead of saying, hey, let's do this program, we actually have somebody that says, hey, let's just empower our children to do better and to be there and to do this as a village. So I appreciate that, and I think it's wonderful, and it's more people should be like you. Thank you.
I would just like to say that, especially today's day and time, you hear a lot around the country, especially with the education system being the way it is, that it's the solutions that people are coming up with are starting from the top, working down. And so I'm greatly appreciative of that you offer a program where it's working for our children and going up. So thanks.
Hi. Trainings come and they go. They last for the moment that they're implemented and they go. So I appreciate that you made this a culture, because when I think of culture, I think that cultures last a lifetime. So that I like that culture piece to it.
Just wanted to thank you for your tenacity. One thing that you just constantly said when we pose a question in indifference or not sure, you made it clear that this is a culture, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, and you're not willing to look at the negative and the opposition, but it's like you said, steadfast, unmovable about the positive, and that you're going to constantly reinforce that. And there are so many other pioneers like yourself that are doing that. It's like a big ship. You can't turn it around overnight. But I continue to encourage you, and I ask that all the people that needs to come into your life to help you stay on this mission.
For bringing this to our attention. I'm not completely aware of that program. I've seen the literature a little bit. I want to speak to your use of language, very specific language, and how you mentioned it a couple times, and it's evident in your what you've shown us that language reflects mental process, and that mental process can be changed by language. So that element is really important. I'm glad to see it, and I appreciate your work. Thank you.
That they're worthy and to see themselves succeeding, and to teach us how to set kids up for success rather than for failure, trying to be for more and more and more of this type of thinking over the children. So just thank you.
I also want to say thank you so much for your time and giving me and some perspective on how to look at success in children's life. For me personally, I didn't really find my ace of hearts until I was older. And so, because I was adopted when I was like 15. And so I'm not really around children all that much, but my younger brother is about to have a child. So I'm really excited to, inform him about this program, and as well as other young adults that are having kids. So in my generation, 22 is not an age to have kids, but everybody is having. So I think that this is really important for people to hear about. So thank you.
I just wanted to say one more time that I do appreciate your work, and I think that it's brilliant and extraordinary, and I thank you for being here today. And I also wanted to mention that I feel like
faculty, I want to tell you thank you so much for coming. But in my give back, I first want to give back to our learning community. I mean, I'm so very proud of you. You listen to this gentleman give his presentation about children. Then you went inside yourself and wrote your mission statement. Then you, even though you agreed with a lot of things that he said in the program, you still had the wherewithal to question, to make sure that he kept hope alive, right? You all keeping the hope that you have, because you've experienced so much as children, having children, being around children. So first, my give back is to you, my beloved learning community, for pushing on. And I'll give back to you. We give back to you as a, because you have inspired this hope in us. And also because I teach in the prisons, and a lot of the things that you say about the importance of culture, juxtaposition with bureaucracy, and how one can stand in the way, how both can stand in the way, because bureaucracy has its culture as well. But what you say about the importance of including parents and those, that's extremely important, because the gentlemen that I talk to and the women, both men and women in prison, talk about the importance of family. They also talk about the, the educational system, but the importance of families is it's so key and pivotal to their changing and transformation. One guy said that as kids we have too big of problems for our little experience in life. How do I deal with poverty? How do I deal with abuse? Who taught me how to love? So I think what you're inspiring, this kind of thing, I see it in our community. You're inspiring not only answers at all, but you're inspiring questions and then therefore possibilities. And I'm going to end with this. I guess you inspired me. Not that I agree with everything you said, you know me, but that's what keeps me going, right? That's important, that open dialogue. But Bell Hooks says that to be a teacher is to practice freedom, that education is the practice of freedom. And that as educators, just like what you're doing, that we not only deal with the minds and the hearts of our students, but we deal with their souls as well. Wherever you think soul is, wherever you think it is, it's extremely important to put that, even if you gotta look at that soul and say, what you doing, soul? Those kinds of things. So that's what I like. You make people, there's a tendency to be for accountability as well as responsibility in the midst of this culture of punishment that we're in. I guess I'm gonna end right there. Thank you so much.